Hello there, and welcome to the second episode of Ychyfus, where we talk kung fu films. The we being me, Clive Davis, and over to you.
Me, Darren Jones.
Yes, Darren Daz Jones, as you are known.
I've gone by many names in the past.
Yeah, you have. My favourite being, of course, Kamal Bleer.
Kamal Bleer, yes, one of my many identities.
Right. So this time, you decided what we should watch, didn't you, Darren? So what initially was your choice?
Well, initially it was the one-arm boxer, starring Wang Yu, and a host of fascinating and fantastic characters.
Yeah.
And then I think on a bit of discussion, we decided to do a double bill.
Right.
Because the one-arm boxer has a sequel. Actually has quite a few sequels. And the most notable of which is Master of the Flying Guillotine, aka One-Arm Boxer versus the Flying Guillotine, aka One-Arm Boxer 2.
Right.
Yes. So, yes, I think, it's no secret that I'm a huge fan of the star and director of this, Wang Yu.
This is true, yes.
Yes. So much so, a very good friend of mine went to Taiwan, where he lives, and got me his autograph, and it's one of my most prized possessions.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Toby went to Taiwan and got me his autograph.
Ah, right. Yes, I do vaguely recall that now. Ah, yes, I'd forgotten about that. Is it what's autographed? Is it a poster or?
Well, what it actually is, and I'm grateful for it nonetheless, is an A4 printout of the poster to this film, actually, One-Arm Boxer. And it's an A4 printout, just on a normal printer.
Right.
That he got Wang Yu to sign in 1999, if I remember rightly.
That's even better than the real thing, in a way, isn't it?
I know it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I was there, and it was a surprise as well. He just came back from Taiwan one day and said, "Oh, I've got something for you. I went to see Wang Yu. Here you are. Here's his autograph."
That's nice of him.
Yeah, that was lovely. I was very impressed.
Is it signed to Kamal Bleer?
No, it's just signed to Darren, if I remember rightly.
All right, okay. Still.
Actually, it might not even have my name on it, but it doesn't matter.
No.
So Wang Yu gave me his autograph.
So, of course, so we're talking here about, some people might not know, but Toby Russell, who is kind of kung fu scholar extraordinaire, and son of Ken Russell as well. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, and also not only is he an expert in the genre. I don't ever remember Toby struggling to answer any question on any obscure film or star or anything. The man just knows everything about Hong Kong, Taiwanese kung fu films. But he's also starred in some of the into some Taiwanese films anyway. Yes, and directed a few as well.
Yes. Yeah, I haven't seen much of what he's directed, but yeah, he's a very, very interesting and knowledgeable polymath of the kung fu scene. Right.
And did he give you any? I've heard stories about. Wang Yu is a notoriously difficult fellow to get along with. Let's put it that way. And
yes,
wasn't he? We'll get into Wang Yu, but if memory serves, maybe you told me this via Toby actually, but isn't he, or wasn't he at a certain point kicked out of the UK for throwing someone through a window in a bar fight or something like this?
I forgot about that. Yes, I think he was. Yes, I did. I do remember hearing that story. Yeah. And it was on the film whose name escapes me. Maybe we can add that in editing. Which was him, which starred him, Oliver Reed, and I think it was. I'd have to look it up. I wasn't prepared for this one. A very eclectic cast of stars from around the world. And yeah, it was abandoned in the end. It never got. It was. I think some of it was shot.
Right. I was going to say because I got excited there because I was thinking, what's this film with Oliver Reed and Wang Yu? I must see this, but it wasn't finished.
Oh, do you know it? Oh
no.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to look that up, and maybe we can put something at the end or put some text on the at the end of the thing. But yes, there was apparently an abandoned film, and credits exist for it. It's a genuine film with Oliver Reed. I want to say Charles Bronson, but I could be wrong. But there were, there's kind of major stars, and apparently Oliver Reed's fighting style was going to be clobbering people with a cricket bat.
Oh, that does sound good.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if he was wearing cricket whites as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen it. Yeah. But yeah, I believe Wang Yu got chucked out of Britain for throwing someone out of a pub window during the filming of that.
Right, that sounds about right. Darren is referring here to the proposed 1975 production The New Spartans, to have been directed by Jack Starrett, and with a crackerjack cast: Wang Yu, Oliver Reed, Toshiro Mifune, Fred Williamson, Susan George, Patrick Wayne, and Harry Andrews. So, sounds like a bit of a missed opportunity. The other Russell Kung Fu connection as well is someone, I can't remember who now, someone did a podcast interview with Toby Russell, and he was talking about how his old man, actually Ken Russell, almost directed a Kung Fu picture.
Well, didn't know that.
In the 60s, starring Ryan O'Neal, of all people. But again, was never completed, or I don't know if it got anywhere near a camera or anything. But it was a proposed film.
Interesting, and early on as well.
Yeah,
in the 60s.
Yeah, I think it would have been late. I'm trying to think what it would have. I mean, Chinese Boxer, I suppose. Speaking of Wang Yu, would have been about, and a few other bits and bobs. I mean, in terms of crossing over and showing in outside of Hong Kong and Taiwan, there wouldn't have been that much, right? I wouldn't have thought.
No, hardly anything. Well, it's pre Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
And actually, I'd be surprised if anything made it out before 71, 72.
Yeah. Anyway,
interesting.
But
that can bring us in nicely into who Wang Yu is.
Yes.
In terms of the scene. So the director and star, Jimmy Wang Yu, of the one-arm boxer, the Flying Guillotine, is the man who is credited with inventing, or at least making popular, the open hand kung fu film format, which is what Bruce Lee took, ran with, exploded. Kung fu films did exist before, so you've got things like the Wong Fei Hung films, with Kwak Pak Hing, who was a big star, made films for decades about Chinese folk hero Wong Fei Hung, who is the same Wong Fei Hung you might have seen in Once Upon a Time in China with Jet Li, or Drunken Master with Jackie Chan. But they were very, very different films in terms of editing, kung fu choreography.
Yes.
The Chinese Boxer, which Wang Yu directed himself. Actually, I think the reason he managed to direct and write Chinese Boxer was he was a big star. He was a big star at Shaw Brothers, and they wouldn't let him direct. And I think he threatened to leave unless they let him direct a film. And that film was The Chinese Boxer.
There was
No, I was going to say recently as well. I sent you a link to this. I don't know if you saw it. There's a guy called James Marshall who has a YouTube page where he puts videos up. He's in Thailand, and he put up a quite interesting video about what happened to a film that was supposed to have starred. Well, it did star Wang Yu, called Tiger Boy, directed by Chan Chair, which would have been a very early Wang Yu vehicle, which seems to have been lost to the sands of time, locked up in some vault somewhere, or we're not quite sure. But it's a bit of a missing link in the Wang Yu story, isn't it? Pre-Chinese Boxer.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, prior to Chinese Boxer, Wang Yu was a mega star.
Yeah.
In the East, for another one-armed film.
Right.
One of the biggest films Shaw Brothers ever made was a film called The One-Armed Swordsman.
Yes.
Which was a soft play film as opposed to a kung fu film, which is generally what we're looking at, where he also loses an arm.
Yes.
Which is what he's riffing off of.
Yeah.
For the one-armed box.
A film I think that probably hasn't necessarily as dated as well. The first One-Armed Swordsman film, I think it.
I'd have to go and look at it. I haven't seen it for a few years. But it's very well made.
It is. But I think I don't know if it would be a good primer for someone just getting into Shaw, because I think it's a little bit creaky, and it's got some of the wire work is a bit see-through, for modern audiences, I think. But no, it's absolutely.
I agree. It's very much from the 60s, very much of the late 60s and Shaw Brothers.
Right, but it
is slightly less successful. But
but an important film, of course. And the interesting thing about Wang Yu as well, I suppose we'll get into this as we discuss the films, is not really a trained martial artist either, right? A swimmer, basically, from what I understand. A swimmer who got signed up to Shaw Brothers because he was young, athletic, and kind of good-looking, I guess. And
yes.
And just took off, right? Obviously, people liked it.
One thing, you kind of need to understand about Wang Yu films, although the choreography is actually pretty good in these two films.
Yes.
Is a lot of Wang Yu's films, kind of make him notorious for, awkwardly forward rolling people to death in fights.
Right.
He's not the best looking fighter on screen.
No, he's a little bit awkward. Yeah, no, you're quite right. But the one thing I think that lends itself to is he genuinely looks like he's struggling sometimes, which is actually quite good, because he looks like he's really fighting to the death. And then he handicaps himself by losing an arm as well. I mean,
in 6 or 7 films.
Yes, yeah.
This is these are not the only films where Mr. Wang plays a man with just the one arm.
No. So let's kick off with the first one then. Is it, Darren?
Let's go.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a one-armed boxer, aka Chinese Professionals, from 1972, Hong Kong production, but shot in Taiwan, I think, and directed and written and starring, the one and only Jimmy Wang Yu. So, what happens in this film? What's the basic plot outline of this then, would you say?
Yes, so Wang Yu is a student, as many of these films start. He's a student in a kung fu school. With his master. He also works, also has a day job. And the scene opens in as so many of these films open, in a tea house or a restaurant or an inn, and some thugs from a rival school try to bully an extra. Really, it's not really a character in the film. Try to bully one of the patrons out of a lovely bird that he's got in a cage.
Yes, in fact, this may be the only kung fu film that I can think of where the initial setup is, "Are you looking at my bird?"
Yeah, that's a very British.
Yes,
that's a very British way to start a fight.
Yeah. But it's actually quite amusing. I'd forgotten this, that it does basically kick off with a couple of bird enthusiasts really at a tea house going, "Oh, that's a fucking nice bird you've got in that cage."
Yeah. And I got it from Thailand. You can't get these over here.
Yeah. It's an unusual opening.
Hubris.
Yeah. Showing off.
Bird. Yes.
Yeah.
So some thugs from a rival school come in and try to bully this man out of the bird, saying, "You're sat on my table. Get out." Oh, sorry, sir. I'll leave immediately. No, you need to give me your bird.
Right.
And they start beating this kind of defenseless businessman with the lovely bird up. And this comes to the attention of Wang Yu and the other students from his kung fu school,
who still have 2 arms at this point. We should mention.
Yeah, Wang Yu is currently completely intact.
Yeah.
At this point. And Wang Yu steps in. They get in a fight. The gang, or the rival school, are also kind of criminals in organised crime, and they're called the Hook Gang in the English dub. Anyway, I think it's the same in the Mandarin.
Yeah, well, the subtitles as well have Hook Gang. Although I don't see any of them actually using a hook at any point. Oh no, hang on.
Yeah, they've got the sticks with the hook on.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yes. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, but I don't think they've got them in the pub. Anyway, either way,
right.
A fight ensues. Wang Yu kicks ass all over the place. They head off back to the school, and then we cut to Wang Yu in front of his master, basically getting told off for causing trouble.
Right, his master being played by Ma Chi.
And then Wang Yu was punished for causing trouble because this gang are evil and corrupt, linked to the rival kung fu school. The master advises the whole school that, well, this isn't over. They're not going to like that. They're going to come back and cause trouble.
Right. Naughty Wang.
So Wang Yu punished.
Yeah. Naughty Wang.
Wang was punished, and he has smack buns.
He does. Yeah.
So they get they put him in front of the altar, and his punishment is you have to clean the altar for 3 days, and you're going to get hit on the bum with a big stick.
Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And and that is that.
Yeah.
And then Wang Yu was sent off to do various duties.
Yes.
Oh, actually, I forgot. I missed a bit out. Yes, the fight starts in the inn.
Yeah.
And then they start making a mess in the inn, and then it's suggested they go to the quarry and finish up the fight.
Yeah, because that's where you should have fights, really, isn't it? There's quarries. If you
and an inordinate amount of, especially Taiwanese films, take place in quarries.
Yes, and as well, a lot of Japanese, like Super Sentai, Ultraman, Kamen Rider, that kind of show, they're always fighting in quarries as well.
Yeah.
In fact, I think
yes.
I got to visit one recently. I got to visit one in another prefecture when we shot the commercial there, and it turned out to be a quarry that they regularly fight in those shows nowadays. So it was quite nice to see that. Yeah.
Excellent. You never know. You could have been in the quarry where Wang Yu fought Zatoichi.
Right. Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. Of course, because there's that as well. Yes, we'll get to that then when we get to the yes.
Get on to the one-arm films, but yes, yeah. So So after they fight in the quarry, he goes back and gets punished, and we cut to a scene of the subordinate from the Hook gang going back to the master and lying to him.
Yeah.
That Jimmy Wang Yu said, "Your master's kung fu's shit."
Yeah, and he said,
"Wages the master."
Yeah, and he said, "Your dad's a twat, and you smell," and all sorts of
you smell.
Yeah, all sorts of crap.
Yeah.
He was talking about it. The bad
jive.
Yeah, the bad master being played by Tien Ye, and I mean, as this kind of escalates, obviously he takes over. You know, he at first you might think that he's just being hoodwinked by his bad student, and he's not too bad. But no, he turns out to be a nasty piece of work, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a shit, isn't he? Yes.
Yeah.
So after this, we get the scene at the school where the Hook gang master, the Hook gang leader, demands Wang Yu for justice.
Right.
Presumably, they want to kill Wang Yu to redress the balance of them losing face as a gang.
Right.
And Wang Yu's master will not hand him over.
No.
And a big fight breaks out as a result. And Wang Yu's master injures the Hook gang's master, and they run off to the Hook gang master, saying, "Well, this isn't over. I'll be back," sort of thing.
Right.
Although not in an Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No.
And this is where the film really kicks off and gets interesting, because this is where the Hook gang decides to hire some foreign fighters,
right,
to get revenge.
Yes, yeah. So this is when shit gets real, as they say. This is right. No messing now. We're not.
Well, you say shit. You should say shit gets real, but a lot of these fighters have got some quite fantastic elements to them.
Shit gets weird. Then let's put it that way.
Shit definitely gets a bit weird, but gloriously so.
Yeah. I mean, this is quite the. This is not only, I think, this is not only like a prime kind of iconic kind of kung fu classic. I think it's specifically, it belongs to this very cartoonish kind of film, doesn't it? It has a particular it's kind of half kung fu film, and they go to certain lengths to authenticity is not the right word, but to kind of highlight what a broad church the world of martial arts is on the one hand, but then on the other hand, it's like Tex Avery or something has been involved with formulating the set pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Some of them are definitely from the Wily Coyote dojo.
Yeah. You kind of half expect Wang Yu to get a delivery from the Acme company, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I'm sure they do spare arms.
Right.
Right. If only you knew.
Yeah.
Yes. So the Han gang hire these other martial arts masters to go and kick the other school's ass.
Right. It's 10 fighters in all. And I don't know if you've done so as well, but I made particular note of who they were because I thought they were worth kind of highlighting.
Yeah. I've got the list. I made my own list of.
Right.
I didn't put into lots of character names, but yes. We need to lay out who these fighters are and what special superpowers they've got.
Yeah. So basically it's there's 10 of them, but it's 8 of them, and then there's another couple added, and of so of the 8, we'll get to the leader because I think we want to build up to who the leader is. But if I may, you've got Tsai Hung and Wang Yu Sheng play a couple of karate fighters.
Yeah.
And then you got Wu Tong Chao is the judo guy. You've got Shan Mao as a taekwondo fighter who bites the head off a glass bottle as well. When you introduce
because that's what
him.
all taekwondo fighters do.
Yeah, that is pretty much the basis of taekwondo, is biting the heads of bottles. Yeah.
Yes.
I should be careful. I've already insulted Koreans in another podcast this week. So,
yeah.
And then Kwan Hung and Blackie Ko as the Thai fighters. And I wanted to just highlight these two because they're quite interesting. So Blackie Ko, who died in 2003, later went on to kind of be quite well known for his car stunts. And he was like I suppose he was the Chinese Evel Knievel, right? And he jumped. I think he jumped over the Great Wall and into the Yellow River or something as well. Like he did these huge kind of Evel Knievel style stunts apart from his film work.
Yeah.
And directed a few films as well. I suppose the most well known one being the Stephen Chow film Curry and Pepper.
Yeah.
And then Kwan Hung, I didn't know much about Kwan Hung, but what I did jump out at me from his filmography is he directed one film in 1988, New Miracle Fighters.
Really?
Yes, which I've not seen New Miracle Fighters. Have you seen New Miracle Fighters?
I've not even heard of New Miracle Fighters.
Right, but you know,
it's not Fight Amongst the Supers, is it? Because that's on a similar.
No,
that's on a similar.
No, it's a different one.
No.
Yeah, but of course, being a Miracle Fighters film, it's probably worth seeing, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Miracle Fighters might be a good one to do down the line.
I think so. I think we're going to have to get to the Miracle Fighters films. I think.
Yeah. But they're for those that don't know, Miracle Fighters are super slapstick, but also super kind of not supernatural, but super kind of magic Taoist powers.
Right.
You know, so there's lots of special effects and lots of people transforming themselves into things and lots of acrobatics. Excellent films.
Yeah, they kind of make One-Armed Boxer look like a documentary almost, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the thing is, the difference being is that Miracle Fighters is not meant to be, is not set in any sort of era of history,
right?
Or has any sort of, because I genuinely think that although the fighting is cartoonish, that Wang Yu is kind of setting this in reality.
Right.
This isn't a supernatural setting.
Right.
Setting this in an unknown time frame, but still it's recognisably real life.
Yeah. And then you've got Pan Chua Lin plays the Indian yoga expert.
Oh yes, I like him.
Yes, complete with blackface.
Yeah.
And a turban, and looking him up, he wasn't in much of anything. I think he's only credited with one other film out of Taiwan, 1975, which I'd never heard of, called File of Heroes. I don't know anything about that, but that's his only other credit apparently. And hang on, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there we go. So those are the 7 who are led by. Who are they led by, Darren?
Well, they are led by Lung Fei, who I didn't write down his character name.
No.
They are led by Lung Fei, who is a regular feature of all of Wang Yu's independent films.
Right.
Most of Wang Yu's independent films. Always plays the villain, and is kind of a mean-looking dude.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know much about him, but I think he's a proper, like, I think he's a bit tasty, isn't he, Lung Fei, I think, in real life.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I don't think he's the sort of man you would want to cross.
Yeah, I think he does genuinely study under someone or other. So I think he's a proper trained. I mean, he looks it. I mean, he looks like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. No, I mean, because he can move. Unlike much as I love Wang Yu, Wang Yu doesn't move very well. In terms of martial arts, but Lung Fei can definitely cut the mustard.
Yes.
Yeah. And he appears as a long-haired Japanese. We assume karate master, although I'm not sure it's actually specified.
No, he's specifically from Okinawa as well, isn't he?
Okinawa, yes, indeed. Yeah. He's got long hair. He's wearing black robes, and for reasons completely unknown to anyone, he's got fangs.
Yes, which is just brilliant. I love the fact that he has fangs.
And it's not explained. He's not a vampire. He's not, he's otherwise human.
Right.
Has very large fangs on his bottom set of teeth.
Yeah, it's interesting. It takes the expected in Kung Fu in general, but particularly from Wang Yu, it takes the expected kind of Jap bashing level to a new point, right? Because he's got fangs. He's like not even human. It reminds me of I've heard that South Koreans a couple of generations ago were raised to think that the people in the north actually had horns. It's kind of seems to be on that level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Although strangely, his students look completely human, who are also presumably from Okinawa.
Yeah, and So there's that core group, but then that's not enough. So they went ahead, and they also hired a couple of Tibetan lamas.
Yeah.
Played by
I like these bots.
Su Chemping and Chang Yi Kwai. These are.
Yeah.
And so basically these guys descend upon the school, Wang Yu's school, and there's kind of an extended it turns into a bit of a tournament film really for a little bit here, and it's an extended Chinese boxing versus all these other kind of forms of fighting. So if we may pause a moment there, Darren, I thought this was a good point to bring this, because this is something that struck me for the first time watching. Because much like yourself, this was a film I saw quite early on in my Kung Fu fandom.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would have been able to make this observation the first time I saw it. But so this is choreographed by someone called Chin Shik Wei, and it comes in 1972, right? So despite in some ways being quite ahead of the curve in concentrating on kind of various martial arts disciplines and stuff like that. On the other hand, and we should probably clarify what we mean when we use this phrase, but the choreography is very much in BOXER territory as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if you're coming into this for the first time and you've not watched a lot of films from the early 70s, then it's nowhere near as slick as what you might expect in terms of smooth fighting, acrobatics.
Right.
It's much more the choreography in this film is much more focused on showing the power and showing the pain on the recipient of the blows.
Right. So
that's what it's trying to do.
Yes. So to further clarify, because I suppose if you're going to be along with us we'll probably be using this phrase a lot. So specifically, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Darren, or if you have something further to add to it. But the way I understand, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? I know it when I see it, but it might be a little bit difficult to explain. But I'll give it a go. I suppose the basher, as it is known, I suppose is like you said, that interim in between the late 60s kind of more elegant kind of sword play film. So again, it's open fist technique, but pre kind of intricate choreography that's dealing in specific styles and shapes and stuff like that. So it's more of a punch and block kind of, and like you said, very savage, or punch and kick and block, and a very kind of savage show of force. As opposed to something along the lines of, you know, Legendary Weapons of China, or even the styles that like Jackie Chan would be doing in Drunken Master or stuff like that. So it's so when you see it,
you know,
it's a very unpolished kind of brutal force, isn't it?
Yeah. It's kind of got more to do with a, you know, I suppose you could say it's got more to do with a, you know, a barroom brawl than it has, you know, an organised, you know, tournament fight.
Yes, and it's. I think it's a bit of a. I mean, we'll probably get to this. We'll probably base an episode around this at some point, I would imagine. But it's a bit of a rites of passage for the kung fu fan, isn't it? It's something you don't necessarily. You learn to get a taste for it.
Yeah, and then absolutely. Yeah, and you know the big proponents really are, you know, if you are looking, you know, down the line to get into them, Chang Sheng,
right,
did a lot of Bashi early 70s stuff, and actually Wang Yu.
Yeah, I suppose the most famous, the most famous example. It does. I think it definitely does fit as a basher actually. Probably the most famous one that most people would have seen, even if they're not into Fu, is Bruce Lee's The Big Boss. Bruce Lee's The Big Boss is pretty much a basher, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's only Bruce Lee's kind of you know, his kind of charisma and his unique style of doing things that that distinguish it. Yeah, so Big Boss definitely a basher.
Yeah.
And again, you know, that's a much more brutal film. You know, of the 4 films that Bruce Lee did, that is a much more brutal film, violent film.
Yes.
Than any of the others.
Yeah. And
because you've got that famous where, you know, that lost scene where he puts a saw through someone's head.
Right. My favourite bit of Big Boss though is when someone is kicked or punched through a wall. And it is actually a shape of a person, like in a cartoon, with their arms and legs akimbo. That's quite good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Again, Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah. So this is quite interesting in so much as it kind of comes weirdly in a bit of an odd spot between the basher and maybe something a bit more ambitious, isn't it? Choreography wise.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah, and it's interesting actually as we get on to Master of the Flying Guillotine, the sequel. That's choreographed by Lu Jialang and Lu Chia-Young, sorry, and the difference in choreography and the attention to the fighting styles, and there's only 3 years between them, is fascinating. You know, it's a much slicker, more intricate film in terms of fight choreography.
Right.
But we'll get to that.
Yes. So there's this long extended fight here between the various fighters and various members of the school that Wang Yu belongs to. So we get to see, you know, the Thai fighters doing a bit of a ritual dance before they start fighting.
With flute music, isn't it?
Yeah.
With that kind of I don't know what the instrument is called, but it's that kind of snake charmer, like an Indian snake charmer kind of sound.
Yeah. And of course, we get to see that the Indian fighter prefers to fight on his hands. He flips over on his hands, and by the magic of speeding the film up, kind of runs circles around
on his
opponent.
hands.
Yeah. And then, to be honest,
and pokes people right out.
Yes, to be honest, I mean, it's churlish really to point these things out. But I was watching it and I was thinking, that's not much use, really, is it? That walking about on your hands. I mean, you could cut to the poke in your eyes.
It's not efficient.
No,
that's not an efficient way to fight. In fact, that's showing off.
Yes, it is.
Just because you're a yogi.
Yeah.
Just because you're a yogi doesn't mean you have to show off. And show what you can do a handstand and poke people in the eyes from a hand stood position. Right.
But it's all good fun.
Excellent.
Yeah. And So to be honest, other than the TIE fighters doing a bit of a dance and the guy walking on his hands, the other fighters are not. There's nothing too pronounced. They don't have too much of a kind of special power or tick or something, do they? Really?
Not really. I mean, the llamas later on we'll see, but the llamas, the styles are kind of distinguished. In the fight in the school, in this initial fight in the school, the llamas, kill people by finger jazz.
Right.
Which is presumably like a pressure point kind of thing.
Right.
On a breath control kind of thing.
But they're more based on reality as opposed to. They're not as outlandish as.
Honestly, yeah.
Do you see
No.
Right.
Some of the characters do all of a sudden get a bit outlandish later on. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, and then so eventually, after a bit tit for tat, so it's time for Wang Yu's kind of had enough. It's time for him to step up and defend his school, and that's obviously it's Lung Fei's turn, and
Wang Yu before this point, Wang Yu decimates everyone who comes across him, because Wang Yu is excellent, is the top student of the school.
Right.
So Wang Yu kicks the arse of the TIE fighter, I think, and the Taekwondo expert, and starts to kick the arse of, actually had already previously kicked the arse of the two karate students.
Right.
Because there's a fight just before this.
Yeah.
So as you said, Lung Fei has had enough.
Yeah, and
he's had enough for Wang Yu's nonsense.
Yeah, because he's probably needs to go home and floss or something because he's got something stuck in his fangs. So
it's a big job, to be fair, for him.
Yes,
it takes a long time to keep these things in trim.
So he steps up, and what does this fanged menace do, Darren, with his karate chop?
Yeah, well, what happens is he in one stroke of his open hand, he chops Wang Yu's arm off. Just one chop.
Yeah.
Karate chop.
Yeah.
No knives.
Nothing.
No axes.
No.
No guillotines.
And it's a clean cut as well. Like it's not even like he breaks the bone and the arm goes all floppy inside the sleeve. He cuts through the fabric of the sleeve and everything. It's off.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, he cuts the sleeve off as well as the arm. Yeah. So the arm is, at this point is completely lopped off.
Yes. So forcing Wang Yu to put his arm inside his tunic for the rest of the film, pretty much. Yeah. So yes. So there we go. That's how the one-arm boxer becomes the one-arm boxer, right? Or at least the first part of his how he becomes a one-arm boxer. So pretty much. I mean, we don't want to dwell too much. He is, of course, left for dead, and nursed a doctor and his daughter, played by Cindy Tang. They find him and they nurse him back to health, don't they?
They do indeed.
But Wang Yu can't rest. He wants to take revenge against the people who destroyed his school. I can't remember. We don't actually see. I mean, they chop off his arm and they don't kill all his. Do they kill all his?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, right.
They do. Yeah, they kill the master and all of the students. So the school is completely destroyed.
Ah, okay. For some reason I hadn't.
Because I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
They brought the Hook Gang with them as well.
Right.
So a kind of background. And then I think, if I remember rightly, then the Hook Gang rush in with the foreign fighters and just basically kill everyone.
Oh, okay. That sounds... Yeah, for some reason I didn't write that down, and my memory is getting worse and worse. I only watched this a couple of days ago, and I lost without my notes. But so he does. He obviously he can't get past this. So the doctor. Did you just take a photo of me, Darren?
No. I didn't mean to.
Ah, right.
I actually took the sound off and turned my phone upside down to go to the toilet.
Ah, right. Okay. Let me make a.
But I was trying to do it. I was trying to disguise doing it. So make a note of the time.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm back. Sorry about that, Clive.
That's all right. Yeah. So the daughter happens to mention, "Hey Wang, my dad says that if you take this potion that he's been keeping in a pot for 30 years and kill all the nerves in your hand, you're going to be well hard despite having one arm." So he does that. He takes this potion, which seems to have like a ginseng root in it or something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then he basically shoves his good arm, or his only arm to be honest, into a fire over and over and over again, burns it until he's got a black arm.
Yeah.
And then drops a big stone on it over and over and over again until he has an arm of iron.
Yeah.
And if this...
I don't remember if they actually named the technique in this. I didn't catch it. But I want to say iron fist technique, but I think I'm wrong.
Right. I think it's called...
Are you looking up that?
I think it's called... Ah! I think it's called...
Yeah. My fucking arm is on fire!
Yeah. I've only got one! I mean... Yes, if this sounds familiar to anyone, by the way, of course, this was made homage to in the RZA film, The Man with the Iron Fists, right?
Yeah.
Which
is surprisingly good, actually.
See, I didn't get on with it myself, but
No.
I
enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it, but I did enjoy it.
And there's a sequel as well, isn't there? There's two of them, isn't there? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. I haven't seen the second one.
In fact, I think RZA directed the second. I don't think he directed the first one, did he? But he certainly directed the second one.
He did.
Oh, he did he?
No, he directed the... Yeah.
Yeah, of course, Wu-Tang Clan being, long time, old school Kung Fu fan. Well, I mean, the name alone, obviously, but...
That's the name.
Yeah, samples, from old Kung Fu classics throughout their recorded output, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so we'll crack on because we don't have enough time to get into hip hop as well. Yeah. So so there we go. And so obviously it's time for a bit of revenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it is worth noting as well the other skill, the other extremely cartoonish skill that he does, which I guess they use reverse film for. It's because he's only got the one arm, so it's a bit difficult to stand up from if you've been knocked down. He has the ability to kind of stand up abruptly from a lying position, like that, using only his legs, right?
With always a good sound effect.
Yeah.
So it's always sound effect.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning here as well, if because this does sound a little bit goofy, and I suppose it is kind of goofy to a certain extent, but it is worth pointing out that both these films seem to exist in this kind of hermetically sealed world where you don't question any of this, right? You don't question that burning your arm and dropping a big stone on it actually, it doesn't just mean that you've got another broken arm. That this is actually a proper technique that, results in iron. Because, I don't know too much about martial arts, Darren, but I'm pretty sure this isn't a very good idea, really, is it?
No, not the fire bit. Although I'm fairly sure that dropping the stone on your hand,
right,
is an exaggerated, telegraphed way,
right?
Or the martial artists actually do toughen the skin on their fists up, on their hands up. So I'm fairly sure it would need looking into, but I'm fairly sure that there are similar techniques that exist in genuine martial arts.
Right. Yeah, but obviously taken to the nth degree, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, telegraphed it.
Yeah. So it's revenge time. So what we've all been looking forward to is Wang Yu basically taking on all these fighters one at a time in a quarry.
Yeah.
Once again.
Back to the quarry.
Yeah.
Back to the quarry.
And of course, I mean, what more is there to be said? Really, it's just it's great fun, isn't it, Darren? It's a great showdown.
That's brilliant. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the other thing we forgot to mention, as well as this, because this becomes important later on, earlier in the film.
Yeah.
The Lung Fei character, so the Okinawan master.
Right.
It's mentioned earlier on that he can transfer his power through objects. So when he strikes an object, he can transfer the force through the object into a standing the other side of the object.
Yes.
And that's telegraphed out earlier in the film. And we see that again in the finale.
Yes, that almost got past me, I have to admit, that little detail. It's surprising they don't actually dwell on it more than they do. It's a bit of a...
Yeah, it's a cool... Yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, Wang Yu he's had enough of this Indian fella showing off. So Wang Yu goes one better and jumps about not only on one arm, but on one finger.
Yeah. And it's this. I keep talking about seeing this very early on.
Yeah.
This what made this leap out at me was just the bizarreness of it, and I think that's kind of the primary way I was gaining my enjoyment from this on first viewing, because there are some really, really bizarre touches in it, and that's kind of chief amongst them, as well as Lung Fei karate chopping someone's arm off. You've got this Indian yogi doing the kind of almost stop motion, encircling Wang Yu, and then Wang Yu says, "Sod this, I'm going to get on one finger."
Yeah, and hops on one finger.
And then, he just hops around.
Yeah.
Again, it's almost like in stop motion because they've altered the position. And then gives him a taste of his own medicine and pokes his eye out with his one finger.
And eventually, of course, he gets to chop off Lung Fei's arm as well, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, from which Lung Fei is not recovering. I think he just bleeds out I think is
that's kind of the impression.
Yeah.
In a pool of water. But yes, before that, but while he's duelling Lung Fei, and it doesn't take long, funnily enough. The final duel.
It's quite quick, isn't it?
It's less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And normally you'd expect a good 10-15 minute kind of fight. With the big bad of the film. But yes, at another point, Wang Yu is kind of a little bit worse for wear, and not hides, but kind of rests for a minute behind a boulder, like this huge boulder the size of a car. And Lung Fei just punches the boulder.
Right.
And the force is transferred to the boulder, and Wang Yu goes flying off as if he's been punched. Which is excellent. One thing we forgot as well: the other people he's fighting in the quarry are the lamas. Are the Tibetan lamas.
Yes.
And then we see the real lama kung fu.
Right.
Which is where because presumably they're working on a kind of a breath control kind of a kung fu, but it wasn't good enough. Just to sort of put that in the plot and telegraph that early on, no, breath control means they have to inflate like a balloon.
Right. Yes, it's like someone's pulled a rip cord, isn't it? They suddenly they just
it's as if they're wearing a life jacket.
Yes, which they probably are. I'm guessing
that's probably exactly. Yeah. And I didn't actually make a note of how he dispatches them.
No, I can't remember. And
remarkable. Yeah.
As if it wasn't exciting enough, they also throw in some bombs as well. They got these quite neat look. I don't know where they get them from. They got these quite neat looking little silver bombs, and they're like round little bombs with fuses like you see in cartoons, but they're painted silver. Yeah. Not dynamite. They've actually gone to the trouble of they look like Christmas. There we go. That's what they are, isn't it? They're Christmas decorations, basically.
Problems.
I can't believe I hadn't figured it out before. They're baubles.
I hadn't.
So there you go.
They look like little Acme bombs.
Yeah. So there you go. So One Arm Boxer also works as a Christmas film. You can watch it at Christmas. It's festive as well.
It's very festive in that moment. Yes.
Yeah.
So they're cheating. And this is the leader of the Hook Gang and his henchmen.
Right.
Up on a cliff, throwing bombs into the quad where Wang Yu's fighting people. And there is quite the cool moment where Wang Yu just catches one of the bombs, chucks it back to the originator, and there's an inordinately large explosion. For the bomb that's been thrown.
I quite liked it.
And he kills the
they did go to the I quite appreciated this little detail. There's a big boof, and then in the foreground, fair play, you do see like a mannequin wearing the right clothes fall. So I was okay, they went to the trouble of they didn't have to do that, right? So
this is a special effects extravaganza.
Yeah. So actually, if anything, it's an embarrassment of riches, and I really like this film, and I think what's always perplexed me slightly over the years is I've kind of got the feeling from various quarters is people bring up Master of the Flying Guillotine. It's the more famous film for various reasons we'll discuss, but I always get the feeling that people. I'm sure I've heard or seen it written down something along the lines of, this is the sequel to a film called One Arm Boxer. You don't have to bother with that. You can go straight to the sequel. This kind of attitude. And I've never understood why, because One Arm Boxer is great fun. I mean, it's really good fun. I mean, I don't see... there's so much in common between this and the sequel as well that if you love the sequel, I'm sure you'd at least get a kick out of this one.
Oh, definitely. Because I think most people who love Master of the Flying Guillotine are there for the gimmicks. Certainly, like I just said, that's how I was approaching it. Oh wow, this film's really bizarre. Look at this bizarre shit going on.
Right.
And this has got as many gimmicks as the Master of the Flying Guillotine, which we've just mentioned. You know, arm lopping, inflatable llamas,
right,
tiptoeing, blackface, turbaned Indian yogis.
Right.
Fanged karate masters.
The one thing I not didn't like, because it's amusing enough, but the one thing that lets this film down a little bit, at least in the export version, is the fact that they've stolen the theme from Shaft.
Oh yes, that's going to be a hurdle. Yeah, because
no, I was going to say, I mean, this happens a lot. There's all sorts of stolen music in all sorts of kung fu films, and the Shaft theme as well has been stolen so many times. But everything else about this film, even though it is kind of oddly goofy, it's also well put together, and as I said, works in its own hermetically sealed world, where normally a bit of stolen music doesn't take me out of the film. But in this case, it almost seems like a bit of a shame that they didn't have their own. Maybe the original release version did, but it do you know what I mean? It seems like that's a little bit tacky. That's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, well, I hadn't actually before the other night when I watched this. I hadn't actually seen or watched it the whole way through with Mandarin in the Mandarin subtitled version.
Right.
And in the back of my mind, I was expecting because the theme from Shaft is the theme to this film. So that this is the opening credits happen with the theme from Shaft.
Right.
And variously films in the training sequences and during some of the fights, you get the theme from Shaft.
Yes.
And it's inescapable. And in the back of my mind, I was kind of expecting, only having watched the dubbed versions years ago, I was kind of expecting to hear some Chinese music,
so
in the opening credits, and there. I thought that the theme from Shaft might have been a dubbing kind of import. But no, it's.
I can't remember. So the dubbed English version also has the Shaft theme to it, does it? Because I don't remember that.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I didn't. Yeah, no, I think. Oh, yeah, we'd have to look into it. Yeah,
right.
No, but I'm fairly sure it is the theme from Shaft. Because I've got a vague memory from 20 years ago of kind of laughing at it.
Oh, okay. Because what's interesting is
the first Shaft didn't surprise me.
Right. Okay. Because
on the second one,
I didn't expect that, and the thing about it as well, they're like the way they've gone about it as well is they've been a little bit crafty, but not really that crafty enough. So they've like cut any vocals out, right? So it jumps, it skips, and then it jumps to the next bridge and the next bridge. You never hear any Isaac Hayes vocals at all, right?
No.
So
that's probably a benefit, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that would be even more jarring to hear Isaac Hayes talk about Private Dix, who's a sex machine to all the tits. But only half of that.
But I like to think that someone, when they were putting it together, goes, you know what? If we cut the words out, they'll never know.
No.
They'll never figure it out.
Well, to be fair, we don't know how far Shaft got into Asia, or at what time. So the theme from Shaft may have been heard in Asia before, in the one-arm boxer first, before Shaft. You never know. Right,
yes. So, this, I mean, sorry to speed things along a little bit. I just realised I'm slightly running out of time here. So this is a big thumbs up from both of us, isn't it, Darren? One-arm boxer?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well worth checking out.
Right.
Not the poorer cousin to, or not the poorer brother to One-Arm Boxer 2 or Master of the Flying Guillotine. And there's plenty there for everyone. You can get into the Bashi Kung Fu. You're well entertained by the gimmicks. Wang Yu is hard as fuck.
Right.
And one of the Wang Yu is not good at kung fu necessarily. He's not usually shown particularly proficient at kung fu. But one thing Wang Yu absolutely rocks at is looking mean.
Yeah.
When he's getting vengeance on people.
Yes, I can see why they call him the Chinese Clint Eastwood. He's got that kind of thing going on a bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
So so in the interim, obviously One Arm Boxer was a huge hit all across Asia. So in the interim between this and the sequel, we would have already had the co-production One Arm Boxer versus Zatoichi, right? Or Zatoichi versus the One Arm Boxer, which would have been the cross-pollination with the Japanese blind swordsman series Zatoichi. I didn't get round to rewatching this for this episode, but
no.
If memory serves, pretty much like all the films in the Zatoichi series, a very good film, right? A consistently high quality series, pretty much all the way through, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think we'll just skip that for now. You never know, we might get round to a bit of branching off into Zatoichi territory one day.
Yeah. Again, there's plenty of sequels, or plenty of other films with Wang Yu playing the same character as well, similar characters.
Yes.
One Arm Boxer versus the Nine Killers.
Yeah, Point the Finger of Death. Yeah, which is a
really good one.
It is good. It's good. And actually, it wasn't until rewatching. I mean, we'll get to this. It wasn't until rewatching the sequel I realised how much Wang Yu had stolen from his own film for Point the Finger of Death. There's quite a lot of similar scenes, isn't there, in Point the Finger of Death?
Yes. Yeah. Well, again, I'd have to go back and rewatch. But it's derivative of itself.
Yeah,
definitely.
And also in the interim, there would have been the Shaw Brothers film, The Flying Guillotine, which, this would have been the original Flying Guillotine film. From what I understand, I think this is one of those questions that plagues young kung fu viewers, for when they're younger, in their younger days. Is, I know we were both kind of wondering this for a while. Like, is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Is that a real thing? Is it the Flying Guillotine? And then until you realise, or you're old enough to realise, no, it's not. Of course it isn't.
Yeah, no, it's an incredibly inefficient weapon. And would not have turned tide of any war or rebellion.
No.
At all.
No. But it would have looked fucking cool.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why it's so good. Which is why there are so many films with flying guillotines in.
Yeah, because I mean, if it was a real thing and you did have someone who could wield it, it would put the fear of God into you, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. If you knew it was deadly, because you know what it can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd be wearing brown trousers to battle just in case.
Absolutely. If you even turned up knowing there were flying guillotines flying about, chopping people's heads.
So, for those who don't know and who maybe have only seen that monstrosity of a CGI fest from 2012, the Guillotines. I don't know if you ever saw this, Darren.
No, I'm not interested in seeing that.
No. Dreadful film. So the weapon, this flying guillotine is. How would you describe this then, Darren? I suppose it's like a inverted bowl with razors lining the inside, and it's on like a chain or something like that, and you throw it, and it lands on your opponent's head, and then by manipulating the chain, the razor, circular razor, snaps off the head, doesn't it? That's the idea.
Yeah. So you throw in a bladed hat on someone's head.
Yeah.
And then you pull it, and their head comes off.
Yeah. That's
the technique.
Quite possibly the best thing ever made. To be blunt about it.
But actually, on a slight tangent.
Yeah.
Although I consider this to be a far superior film than the Shaw's Flying Guillotine.
Agreed.
With Chen Guantai.
Agreed.
The way that and this is a spoiler for the Flying Guillotine by Shaw's, so spoiler alert. But I do rather enjoy the way that they defeat the Flying Guillotine in the Shaw's Flying Guillotine film.
Remind me.
And that is with an umbrella.
Ah, right. Is it the like the skeletal steel umbrella thing? Is it?
That's it. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Was that weapon in the 3D film Dynasty as well? Am I remembering that right?
No. Dynasty was like some sort of weird suit of armour that flew around.
Yes, but wasn't it two weapons? Wasn't it that weird spinning suit of armour, and then didn't someone have some variation on that umbrella as well? I might be remembering that wrong, but
yeah, I haven't seen Dynasty for a couple of decades. Don't know.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah.
And a film I would dearly love to see a 3D. I mean, I'm not a big one for 3D, but if there was a screening of Dynasty in 3D,
yes,
move hell and high water to see that, wouldn't you?
Yes, and you would duck as the flying suit of armour
right
comes to kill you. I would love to be ducking to avoid the suit of armour being thrown by someone.
Right. So okay. So anyway, let's get our daps on here. So in this particular film, they the Flying Guillotine, actually, they've got a really nice version. I don't know if so. I watched this film. There's a nice widescreen special edition DVD, which is the version you've got as well, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And there's a commentary on it as well. I don't know if you've ever listened to the commentary.
Funny enough, I listened to a bit of it last night, and I listened to a bit this morning. Yeah, they talk about the Flying Guillotine there, don't they?
Yes, a Wade Major and Andy Klein. It's not a bad little commentary, actually.
Yes, decent.
Yeah. A few minor errors here and there, like they say that for some reason they say Doris Lung wasn't in many films, but she was in loads of films. She was in about 70 films or something. So I don't know where they got that from. But anyway, that's nitpicking. But they do make a point, and it is a good point, that the Flying Guillotine in this film is a really nice design, isn't it?
Yeah. Because it folds away.
Yeah, it's a compact one.
It's portable. It's a portable Flying Guillotine.
It's like the difference between an umbrella and those umbrellas that fold up and you can put it in your bag, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the analogy they made on the commentary, isn't it? Yeah.
It's the Saturday night special of Flying Guillotines.
Yeah, and if I remember rightly, in the original Shaw's film, The Flying Guillotine, it's basically a big bucket or helmet that you have to kind of lug around that looks really heavy and made out of cast iron.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is like a lovely little compact number.
Right.
And bright red, which is also kind of cool.
Yeah, it does look lovely. In fact, I think this would have been the first time I'd seen a Flying Guillotine in the film. So I think going back and watching the Flying Guillotine, the Flying Guillotine 2 and Fatal Flying Guillotines after this, I think I was a little bit kind of disappointed that that's a crap Flying Guillotine you got.
Exactly. Yeah. Wang Yu should have had more involvement in these films, and he would have made a lovely looking guillotine.
Right, and yes, because it is Jimmy Wang Yu once again directing, writing, and star, and again from his independent production company, I think. And this time the Flying Guillotine, which I assume is a response to the Shaw Brothers film, because clearly this wasn't a real thing.
No.
Is being wielded by a blind kind of Qing loyalist, I guess, who is posing as a monk, and he's living on top of this mountain, and he's hunting Ming Patriot rebels, right? That's what he's up to. And he's also got a little monkey on a leash as well, I noticed.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, and that monkey was not being very well looked after.
no, it's like running about and...
Yeah, actually, I don't know if it's worth putting an animal cruelty warning on this film, because you've got the monkeys a little bit ill-treated, and then a chicken gets beheaded later on as well, on screen.
When he's practicing with his Flying Guillotine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he...
So FYI, if you are sensitive towards animal cruelty on film.
Right. Yes. Although the monkey, nothing bad happens to the monkey, but I suppose because basically this Kam Kong, or King Kong, as he's sometimes known, who is just amazing in this film, isn't he?
He is a complete and utter badass.
Yeah, force of nature.
And scary. Scary.
Yeah.
There aren't that many kung fu stars who can really generate the fear in you.
Right.
And in this role, he can definitely do that.
Yeah. So he gets a message. He gets a message delivered by airmail by this bird, and he finds out that his associates who have been tracking down and killing Ming patriots have probably been killed themselves. Right? They send a message saying, "We found the one-armed boxer. We're gonna challenge him to a fight. If you're getting this message, that means we're probably dead." So Kam Kong sets his own house on fire, jumps out the roof for a start, makes a hole in the roof.
Yeah, just straight up in the air.
Yeah, sets it on fire. Don't think he leaves any food in a bowl for the monkey, so,
See?
I don't think that monkey's... Yeah, that monkey didn't last long unless it got it out of the leash.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel quite sorry for the monkey.
He didn't have a good life. Poor dad.
No. Or he might have escaped and grown up to father Filthy the monkey from Ren and Stimpy. I would like to think.
Yes. Yeah. And or possibly he could have escaped and trained his own student, the Monkey Man, who appears later on in the film.
Yes. Yes. Or of course, changed identity and became the well-known figure Curious George.
Yes, indeed. Yes, and possibly, ate a bit more Weetabix, ate a bit more shredded wheats, and grown up a bit, and beefed up.
Right, the possibilities are endless, really, aren't they? So, yes. So basically, Kam Kong is out to find and kill, as he says, "I intend to kill every one-eyed man who I come across."
One-armed.
Yeah. What did I say?
Yeah. One-eyed.
Oh, well, they can fuck off too.
Yeah, exactly. The collateral damage.
The myopic little bastards. Apologies to any one-eyed listeners, by the way.
And there are a surprising amount of one-armed martial artists in this film, we should mention.
That's true, yeah. It's like an epidemic. It's the COVID of the Qing dynasty. And it's Lung Fei is the super spreader from the previous film. Right.
Chopping people's arms with karate chops, obviously.
Yeah, there's even one guy who tries to get away with not paying his bill in a restaurant, isn't it, by posing as the one-armed boxer, and he loses his head. It's worth noting as well that even though we know and we've seen decapitate statues and chickens, the first time Kam Kong chucks his flying guillotine on that imposter's head, thinking it's Wang Yu, and yanks his head off in front of everything, it's a real moment, isn't it? It's like, fuck it hell.
It's gory, that wouldn't be out of place in an Italian late 70s, early 80s video nasty.
Right.
That decapitation, that's a gory old thing.
Yeah. So sorry, I shouldn't have talked about monkeys for so long. Running out of time here a bit. So obviously he's on the lookout for the one-armed boxer, and the one-armed boxer, Wang Yu, of course, at this point he's running his own kung fu school, right? And he's teaching people how to walk on baskets without knocking them over and stuff like that, and he's breath control and stuff. And turns out there's a tournament in town. There's a martial arts tournament of some stripe, and at first he doesn't want to go because, of course, which is to be honest a good idea if he's a Ming patriot loyalist in hiding. I'm not sure if it's a good. Say again.
he wants to keep his head down, really, doesn't he?
Yeah. So to be honest, he shouldn't really be going, because there's not that many. I noticed there's not much of a crowd at this tournament. There's like a handful of people, isn't there?
Yeah. But this is pester power, you know.
Yeah.
He's not ready. You know, he's a rock hard martial artist.
Yeah.
Total badass. You know, strong moral fibre.
Yeah.
But you know, he's very weak with the students. Very weak on the pester power.
Yeah. Oh, go on. We could learn. Oh, all right then. You know. Yeah.
Oh, go on. You've been good boys this week. Go on then.
Yeah. So they end up going to this tournament, and the tournament takes up a goodly part of the film, and I suppose this is kind of an extension then of that scene in the first film where you had the different fighters versus Chinese boxing, and so this is, I suppose this is the most famous sequence of the film, isn't it, other than Kam Kong and his flying guillotine?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and and this is distinguished again from one-arm boxer in the tournament section. Yes, it's cartoony violence in general, much the same way as as the one-arm boxer, but because they changed fight choreographers, because it's the Laos who are choreographing the fights, they're proper martial artists, and they're interested. You know, their career is basically, you know, a quest to preserve traditional martial arts styles accurately on camera.
Right.
So you notice a difference in the choreography and the fighting styles kind of straight away.
Yes.
It's much more. It looks much better for a start.
Yes.
But also they're very distinguished. So, for example, you know, they're distinguished from each other. So, for example, you've got, you know, a tiger and crane style specialist, and then you've got the kung fu expert who swings his blade with a blade in it.
Right.
You know, 3-section staffs versus poles, and you know, it's much. A lot of it is a lot more traditional and kind of accurate than its predecessor.
We're not in
different styles.
We're not in Basher territory anymore. Apart from, I suppose, Wang Yu is kind of pretty much still doing the same thing, but all the opponents that he's lined up against bring the variety, right?
Yeah.
In fact, oddly enough, I think more so than the first film, I think Wang Yu kind of got away with in the first film kind of looking like he's just about kind of holding his own, whereas I got the feeling here the editing is a lot more sympathetic to kind of letting him get away that he's won some fights, which I'm not entirely sure if he would. The man who made a career out of forward rolling people to death. Right. So it's worth kind of highlighting some of these quickly, so that we've got the return of there's one Thai fighter who does the little ritual dance, as played by Sham Chin Bo. For some reason in this version he's kind of rude and filthy, isn't he, and spits a lot. I don't know.
He's got kind of, you know, and I don't think it's makeup. You know, I don't think it's makeup designed to make his skin darker because he's from a different region,
right?
Or country. But he does look a bit grubby.
He does.
You know, it looks like he's got dirt on his face,
and he's always spitting, and he just looks. Yeah, you wouldn't invite him in your house, would you?
No, and he just scowls, doesn't he? He's just kind of grub.
Yeah.
You know, tight-bulled as well, actually.
Yeah. Bit of a twat, actually. To be fair. Sorry, Tam Chimbo, but you're a twat in this.
Well, it's a testament to his acting.
Yeah. I'm sure he's a lovely fellow.
Exactly.
Yeah. We got Lung Fei returning as another Japanese fighter, without fangs this time.
No fangs, but a good hat.
Yeah, good hat. One of them hats. One of them straw hats that always makes you think of Shogun Assassin, pretty much.
Yeah, Shogun Assassin, or if you haven't seen Shogun Assassin, Big Trouble in Little China.
There we go. Yeah. Yes, we got another Indian fighter, Wang Yung Sheng, but this Indian fighter is a bit special, isn't he, Darren.
He is. Yeah. Yes. Well, as we've learned, as these films will testify, all Indian yogis are special.
Yes.
And have supernatural abilities.
And this guy has extending arms, which is very, very cool.
Yes, and those of you who used to, in the 90s, used to play the Street Fighter video game, there's a character in there that is directly based on this character.
Yes, in fact, I would go so far as to say, watching this again, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this has ever actually been confirmed or denied one way or the other, but I'm guessing the makers of the Street Fighter 2 video game must have been directly influenced by this film, right? The whole tournament setup, the Indian fighter with the long arms. The fact that I noticed as well on this, there's like one. I mean, this may be stretching it, but there's like a bit where the referee goes, "Whoever it is wins," and it's exactly in that Street Fighter vein.
Yes, I hadn't noticed that, but but I mean, there can be no, the characters look exactly the same.
Right.
It's the same clothes, the same arms.
Right.
I think the same owl on the shoulder. I haven't played the game since the early 90s, but
Right. No, I was never a big beat 'em up. I never got to the point where I actually learnt which buttons to press to do that. So I just hit the buttons. Which even if you win, it's not very satisfying, because you just think, well, I just got away with that. I was lucky. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the victory is tainted.
Yeah. So, did you actually go to the trouble of learning special move?
I did. Specifically on Street Fighter, I did know how to do the fireball. Yes, I did learn how to do the fight, but not any of the more advanced. Excuse me. Not any of the more advanced combos.
Quick digression here, because I think it's worth bringing up, because this is something I didn't know, and I was wondering, because you're not really a gamer as such anymore either. But
no.
I didn't realise, but the Mortal Kombat series, which is always kind of quite violent, but I didn't realise this. I think I saw something about it on like a Charlie Brooker documentary or something like that. But have you seen any of the kill scenes from like some of the later Mortal Kombat games?
Not really. No, I mean, there's. I think it's famous for like ripping someone's backbone out or something, isn't it?
They've gone way. There's like it just goes into. If you win, it goes into this win scene, and they're just amazing. And they've got like there's a woman sliced in half with a buzzsaw up her body and shit like that.
Oh yes, I've seen that. I have seen that. Yeah. I think I've seen that same documentary actually.
Right. I was out of the loop. I didn't realize it almost got me interested in games again, because I thought, fucking hell, that's pretty extreme.
Yeah. But to go into a quick 5-second burst of nostalgia, talking about beat 'em ups. The first beat 'em up that I ever played was for the ZX Spectrum, and it was called Barbarian.
Oh, I know it.
And it was.
I know it well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the best move in that, the only reason you had to play Barbarian was to master the flying neck chop.
Right.
Where you beat your opponent by chopping their head off, by spinning around your sword.
Yes.
And then a little goblin comes from the left of the screen and kicks the head.
Right. Yeah,
off the screen, and then you won the game.
And of course, had to be done on rubber keys for the full effect.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, quite right.
No joysticks. So you have this extended. So you have Ho Pei Wei as well, is the guy with the braid. You have Ho Wei Seung something. I can't read my own writing. Who's the Mongolian? You mentioned Lau Ka Wing, who did the choreography with his brother. He's the guy with the three section staff, isn't he?
Yeah, and interestingly, I don't know if you were going to come to this, but there are two interesting early appearances by two very famous kung fu stars, famous choreographers who became famous choreographers as well.
Right.
So at the beginning of the film, in the tournament sponsor's gym in his kung fu school. There's a very short section where his students are fighting with shields and clubs.
Right.
And the first person you see, the person doing the demonstration with the shields and clubs, that's Robert Tai.
Ah, okay, that did slip by me, I have to admit. I didn't notice that. Yeah.
And then later on, and this is the reason I remembered it, in the fight with the 3-section pole and the pole, it didn't look like him, but HKMDB tells me that it is. And I'll believe them. And that was definitely Robert Tai.
Right.
And they were students together, so I'm friends, so I can buy it's him. So the fighter with the staff fighting the fighter with the 3-section pole is Kuo Chui.
Ah, right.
Philip
Yes,
Kwok.
it is him. Yes, you're quite. Yes. Yeah. And also you've got Lung Fong as well. He's the tiger fist guy who picks his nose.
Yeah.
And then, of course, bringing us back to Ninja Hunter and Abbott White, Jack Long.
Oh yes. So and again, this has got Taiwan written all over it. Just by the appearance of those stars. And we should probably mention that, with the exception of Jack Long, that Robert Tai and Kuo Chui, they were integral to another very, very famous series of films, the Venom films.
Right.
For Shaw Brothers.
Yes, which will be getting to, I think.
We're going to come back to.
Yes.
Very, very soon.
Yes.
Interesting to see these people pop up,
Also worth noting, on a purely gratuitous note, Doris Lung, cute as a button.
Oh, lovely she is. Lovely. Yeah. I bet you want to be that monkey man, don't you?
Yes.
Getting stripped by Doris Lung.
Yes, the monkey boxer as played by Wong Tai Liang. Yes. I think that's all the credits of note. So so that tournament goes on for a bit, and then Kam Kong knows that this tournament is probably going to bring some of these traitors out in the open. So he does turn up at the tournament and again some poor fucker sees the wrong end of his flying guillotine. And yes, so obviously the stage is set for Kam Kong, and also Kam Kong it turns out he's hired some of the people who were at the tournament as well to do his bidding, right? So the final section of the film is basically Wang Yu building up to the big end of level boss that is Kam Kong. He has to dispatch with a few people, and then the big reveal. And I suppose the one that's I think most notable for me before we get to the big finale is the way he dispatches with Sham Chimbo as the filthy TIE fighter, because this is like
it's brutal.
This is quite nasty, isn't it?
It's and this is the thing, we mentioned this in the previous podcast, the similarity between spaghetti westerns,
right,
and Fu films.
Yeah.
And for me, this is the point where, after the tournament, this is almost the point where Master of the Flying Guillotine stops being a kung fu film,
right,
and turns into almost a Sergio Corbucci Django type western.
Right. Yes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So all of us, up until this point, Wang Yu has been, a very reserved, very honourable, kung fu master.
Yeah.
Very, very heroic. But at this point, he turns.
Yeah.
He turns into quite the sadist.
Well, he turns into he cheats, really, by any means necessary.
Literally.
Yeah, so basically
he's more than capable of defeating this Thai boxer all on his own.
Yeah.
But he's done it before.
And he goes a bit MacGyver as well. So obviously in his spare time, he's managed to construct like a shack or a little house with an iron floor, and then had fires set underneath it, right? And he tricks the TIE fighter into fighting with him in this little house, and of course, the TIE fighter is and his feet but it's not funny. It's quite nasty, and when he gets kicked over and lands, and he's clearly in pain and basically being slowly singed to death, right?
Yeah, it's kind of torture, really, rather than fighting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, and at certain points, you know, the TIE, you know, talking about ganging up on this fighter. You know, at certain points he tries to jump out of the open windows in this shack.
Yeah.
But of course, Wang Yu has arranged that his students are surrounding the place with spears.
Yeah.
So that at any point he tries to jump out of the window, he's stuck with the spears.
Right. No, it's not a fair fight.
And you know, and that's
at all.
No. It's part of that kind of you know, and you see it a lot in Chinese kung fu movies, where you know you have these kind of invincible skills that you have to find the kind of weak point to, and you know the weak point to the Thai boxer is the fact that he fights barefoot.
Right,
that's his thing.
Right,
you know?
Right.
And Wang Yu wears shoes.
Right.
One thing actually we didn't mention was Wang Yu's special powers.
Yeah.
Wang Yu's special style, which is early on in the film when he's training people to walk on baskets.
Yeah.
You know, with this kind of light technique.
Yeah.
Wang Yu has the ability with his kung fu to walk up walls and actually walk up ceilings.
Yes.
He can like Richie walk dancing on the ceiling.
Right.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the video or heard the song, then that's lost to you.
Right.
Like Rich did a song where in the video he's on the ceiling like Wang Yu.
Yes. Very much inspired by Wang Yu, Lionel Richie, I think.
Oh yes, indeed. Yeah, and the comic cards as well. Yeah,
yes.
You know, took a lot of inspiration from early '70s bashers.
You could even go as far as to say, Spider Wang can do anything a spider can. Yeah. So this scene as well, it's funny. It actually, there's a tonal shift here. It actually made me laugh out loud, because when this Thai guy basically burns to death slowly while getting beaten and poked with spears, which is quite nasty, but then it's immediately followed by Wang Yu running out the house and jumping in a pot of water and going, ooh, like he's just had a nice cup of tea or something. And that's
exactly, and there's lots of steam, you know, again, cartoon, you know, we're back in into the Warner Brothers cartoons.
Yeah.
You know, steam just flowing out of this bucket.
Which is hilarious, and coming right after this nasty bit is like, I'm not quite sure. It's you know, it's that kind of tonal shift that you'd get years later in like Untold Story or Dr. Lamb or something like that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where it's just comedy in the middle of brutal horror film.
And so then yes, I'm gonna have to wrap it up here the next 5 minutes. But yes, just to put the stamp there on what you were saying, Darren. You're quite right. In this final movement where he fights Cam Kong and uses various techniques, and he buys this coffin shop, doesn't he? He buys a coffin shop and fills all the coffins with booby traps and stuff. And he also has all these caged, the birds come back into it again, all these caged birds tweeting and stuff, because of course Cam Kong's, you know, his main sense is his hearing, right? And Wang Yu is very light on his feet, and then these cacophony of birds and stuff, and he manages to finally defeat Cam Kong by filling all these coffins with booby traps and flying axes and things like that. And you're right, at this point the final fight is almost, you know, it's not so much a kung fu duel anymore. It's basically taunting a blind man and throwing knives at him. So cheating axes, actually, I think. Axes, throwing axes.
Little hatchets. Spring-loaded hatchets.
Right.
Getting rid of the blind man's sense of hearing, confusing him and making him open, not even punching and kicking him, making him open coffins.
Right.
With booby traps.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not.
And then that ends.
Yeah, and it's not in the film. It might have been cut out. I reckon at the very end in the original version, took a shit on him. Just
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And wiped his ass on his flying guillotine.
Yeah, the unfilmed script for One Arm Boxer 3, had Wang Yu going after his infant children.
Right.
Not really. Yeah. But it ends. It ends with this great image of Wang Yu punching Kam Kong through the roof.
Yes.
So much the same way as Kam Kong jumped through the roof in the opening sequence.
Yes.
Wang Yu punches him kind of just as high, 20 foot in the air, kicks the coffin, kicks one of the coffins. Kam Kong lies in the coffin.
Yeah, brilliant.
Hands in the coffin.
Brilliant ending.
Yeah, Wang Yu walks off.
Perfect.
Yeah. The other thing actually that just reminded me of one thing we haven't mentioned about this that distinguishes this from most other kung fu films of any era actually is the soundtrack.
Oh yes,
so,
right.
So the opening sequence in particular, has this. I think it's Kraftwerk.
Yes, it's. I can't remember exactly which bits are which, but I think it's all krautrock. So it's either Kraftwerk. I think maybe you're talking about the rockin' theme tune during the credits, right?
No. I'm talking about the sort of.
Oh right, okay. Because I think that which is you can imagine when this played in grindhouses, that opening credits must have raised the roof, right? It's like, fuck, here we go.
Wild.
Yeah, I think that's Noi. I think that.
No, that's not. Yeah, I was actually talking about the kind of the menacing electro.
Yes.
Kind of background music.
Yes, I think it is mostly Kraftwerk because there's Noi and maybe there's a bit of Tangerine Dream or probably should have looked this up, but yes. But it is brilliant. It fits the movie. It's so much better than the Shaft theme tune.
Yeah, and that opening scene, and it's 10 or 15 seconds long of Kam Kong having shaved his head and disguised himself as a monk,
right?
Because that's a disguise. Kam Kong at the start has long hair and long eyebrows, of him walking disguised as a monk to this menacing.
Yeah,
and we're going to call it Kraftwerk if it's not Tangerine Dream.
Go for it.
To this kind of menacing, slow beat, almost reminiscent. It's almost reminiscent of Lucio Fulci's Zombie, Fabio Frizzi's Zombie theme tune. It's got that kind of slow menace to it.
Yeah, something from hell has come to get you, and you're not getting away from it.
And you just don't see that. That just doesn't appear
almost
anywhere else in the genre.
And it's a shame actually as well. I get it. It is theft after all. But from what I understand, this special edition DVD that we watched, which is 15 years, maybe more, or 20 years old now, maybe when it first came out.
Early 2000s. Yeah.
I think since that, every release since has been stripped of all that music, isn't it? Whoever's lawyers it is came down.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you've got to seek out this edition or earlier edition. Obviously, this edition's the best looking one, as opposed to and it's a bit longer because stuff had been cut out of earlier versions as well. So.
Yeah. There's exploits in it.
So there's you need, because I've never seen it in any other form, so I've no idea how it plays without the krautrock music, because it's fucking perfect,
it would be,
isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be poorer if it's not got. Yeah. If you're watching the version without the krautrock music in it, background music, then you're really losing out.
Yeah,
because that just sets it apart so much.
Yeah, the only comparison I can think of is how is it Mars Villa has the soundtrack from like Hang 'Em High, I think, or something like that, isn't it? Which was used in a lot of kung fu films, and it's perfect. It's perfect. It's stolen, but it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, another link in the Western and kung fu genres. It's the music just fits.
Yeah.
The action or the setup so well.
Yeah, and it's cool as opposed to, I can't remember what there was some film with Dean Sheck in, which I can't remember what it was, and they used that old disco song by Lip Sync, Funky Town.
Oh yeah.
But they'd repeat back to the thumping kind of dum 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 sort of thing at the beginning. Right, I've run out of time, Darren, unfortunately. So if you have any other, if you've got any things we haven't said, now's the time to do it. But for me, I'm just going to say, perfect double bill. Perfect double bill. Would love to see them in a big screen.
Yeah. Please, someone do a double bill of this on the big screen after COVID, all over the world, or at least in the UK and Japan.
Yeah, so we can go see it. Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely, check it out. They're unique films. There's nothing like these films anywhere else. And more on probably Wang Yu, Shaw Brothers, in a few episodes' time.
Yes, and I think what I'll probably do here, I'll edit in. We'll finish off. I'll edit in that opening rockin' theme tune from Master vs. the Flying Guillotine.
Yes, actually, there's a good trailer on YouTube. If anyone wants a taste of this, especially if you can't locate the DVD.
Yeah.
If anyone wants a taste of it, there's a good trailer on YouTube for the special edition that we were talking about. And on YouTube, it's called Master of the Flying Guillotine, Nei, however you pronounce that band's name, NEU.
It's spelled NEU.
And it's the special edition. Yeah, it's the trailer for the special edition that we watched, and it's a good taster of how different the soundtrack is to anything else.
Right. Okay, doc.
Yeah.
There we go then. So take care of your monkeys. Don't leave them tied up on top of mountains. And I'll see you next time, Darren, for some more Ychyfus.
Yes, Ychyfus will return.